The first reported sighting occurred in 1991 in Newton Township, just north of Scranton. Since then, dozens of people, including state and local police, have witnessed an unexplained show of lights. The first home video was shot by Gary Steyer. He started monitoring the skies after his daughter, Christy, reported a bizarre encounter with a UFO.
I at first thought it was another car, but I looked out towards the back of me and I noticed there was no car in back of me. And I was adjusting the mirror and I noticed an object in the sky. It was flying behind my car and I kept watching it in my rearview mirror. And eventually it went over to where I could see it looking out the window. It kept following me driving down the road. And then I made a right-hand turn to come up onto the road coming up towards my house. And this object made a right-hand turn. And by this point, I was getting really scared.
She drove into the driveway, ran up to the front door, came flying in the house, and said something was following her. And then when she told me it was above her car, I didn't know what she was talking about.
Since Christy had been the only one to experience the light phenomenon, the Steyers thought it must have been an isolated event. But a few months later, the lights returned, and this time the extraterrestrial display was witnessed by more than just one person. While driving home on January 8th, Gary and his wife Nadia saw unusual lights hovering in the distance near their house. They rushed home, and Gary got out his video camera. This time, he was able to get the UFO on tape.
It was a feeling of great excitement because these things were happening right before your eyes. You didn't know really what these lights were, what was happening. It was like an adventure.
Being a respected school teacher, Gary Steyer was hesitant to call the authorities, fearing public ridicule. But when the lights continued hovering for several hours, he finally decided to alert the police.
911 emergency. You want to report what?
And within a matter of minutes, Officer Callie arrived along with 3 state policemen. And as I taped, they stood alongside of me with their handheld radios in my front yard.
The dispatcher told me he received a call from a resident in the community that there was a strange object in the air above his house.
When he initially called me, he didn't want to give me anything but his street address. He didn't want to give me his full name or phone number because he didn't want to be associated with something that sounded this bizarre.
I didn't believe initially when I received the call that there would be anything of substance that I would see. Immediately upon exiting my police vehicle, I looked up in the air and I saw 4 or 5 bright objects up in the air.
There's one right alongside of it.
Above the 3 towers coming over to
Another one just flashed.
Officer Callie called into his dispatcher and asked him to check with the local airport tower to see if they were picking up anything on radar.
Lights. All right. Well, let me look. It was one of those real crystal clear nights. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. We looked out the window over towards where he was talking about, and sure enough, there were some lights out there.
According to local sources, there were no commercial or military aircraft in the area that night, and nothing was picked up on radar. But despite this, half a dozen witnesses reported seeing a UFO.
They had no aircraft in the area of the Triple Towers, and that no airplanes were supposed to be in that area, and nothing was picked up on radar.
I felt that there was possibly a problem with the radar system. Shortly thereafter, he contacted me back and said that they checked it again, and there's nothing up there.
The lights appear to be most active over this area, Bald Mountain. Pam Zakowski is a local newspaper reporter who first broke the UFO story. She was an impartial observer until she hiked to the top of Bald Mountain with UFO investigator Irene MacDonald. Near the summit, the 2 women had a terrifying encounter.
We were merely poking around, actually trying to see where Gary Steyer's house was from the top of the mountain, when 2 men in a pickup truck pulled up, drove up the access road, and they both got out, and one was older and one was younger.
They both had guns, and they were incredibly angry. They said, "You're trespassing. You know you're trespassing. What are you doing up here?"
I said we were just taking a walk in the winter. I wasn't going to say we were up there looking for evidence of UFOs.
When I saw their intense anger and their guns, I knew that in 30 seconds or a minute, I either would be alive or I wouldn't be.
We agreed to leave, but we had only been up there probably maybe 5 minutes at the most. And what's unusual is the fact that almost everybody at one time or another in this area has climbed that mountain for exercise or recreation and never have been threatened with a gun.
Pam Zukoski never saw the two men again and believes they were not local. She ran a search on their license plate number, but that has only deepened the mystery. The plate number does not exist in any Pennsylvania motor vehicle record. The identity of the two men is still unknown. Could their appearance be somehow related to the unexplained lights in the area? After the incident on Bald Mountain, the UFO activity has only increased, and more witnesses have come forward.
It was just about dusk, and as we were there up by the power lines, all of a sudden, these objects started coming up out of the treetops.
They were just everywhere. Seemed wherever we turned, there was another one. I just remembered not hearing a sound.
But not everyone in the area believes the lights are UFOs. Karen and Bob Siemens own the airport in Factoryville, about 10 miles south of Bald Mountain. They believe people are simply sighting their newly installed beacon.
I think because we had put a new beacon up and people in the area were not used to seeing the light, I really think it's just too much of a coincidence.
Investigating the Siemens theory further, we took Gary Steyer's footage and overlaid footage of the airport beacon taken from the same angle. Using a grid system, it appears impossible for the beacon and the lights to be one and the same. We also took the videotape to ufologist Jeff Sainio. After careful analysis, Sainio has concluded that the lights are not conventional aircraft, nor are they a hoax, and they're definitely not emanating from the beacon.
My impression of this tape is that it certainly wasn't faked. Here, all of the unusual lights are moving laterally. And so an airport beacon light doesn't move laterally. So that couldn't explain any of the 5 interesting points that I found on this tape.
As if in response to increased interest in the lights, the UFO activity has subsided in recent months. But the people of Newton Township keep their eyes and camcorders pointed to the sky, anticipating the return of what some believe is an alien spacecraft.
All I know is that we taped some unusual lights and objects in the sky. The night of January 8th did happen, and I wasn't the only person that saw these things. There were hundreds of other people who had similar experiences, but they didn't have video cameras in their hands. And all I can say about the tape is that it speaks for itself.
911, what are you reporting?
What the hell is that? It's not a helicopter because I can't hear it.
Du, in der Kamera siehst du das unheimlich gut.
Ja.
Ja.
Every amateur home video submitted to sightings asks the same questions. What are they? Where did they come from? And where are they going? The answers have yet to be found. Before the advent of home video technology, the government did try to find an answer. But of the 12,618 cases investigated by Project Blue Book, 701 remain a mystery. Project Blue Book ended in 1969, but the sightings have not. Thousands are reported each year, many to the sightings offices. Recently, several videos arrived from one area of northern Michigan.
There's been a lot of speculation. Why Michigan? Michigan has historically had an extremely high percentage of reported UFO sightings in the United States.
Approximately 7:05 that morning, I received a call from this female who identified herself as Tracy Shada, and I could tell the tone of her voice. She was quite frightened.
It took about 3 or 4 times to ask him what the complaint was about before he told me it was a UFO reported.
When we sent a team to investigate, State Troopers Gouldner and Lasky told us that in their 20 years on the force, they've received hundreds of UFO calls.
99% of the time, you take it as somebody who sees a bright light up in the sky. And personally, I felt there's definitely something there. This lady is not telling some concocted story.
I'm guessing it was 2 to 3 times the size of my barn. And as the object appeared to be moving away, I got real scared.
There's things out there that are unexplained, and this is one of them.
Home video shot by viewer Richard Almeida alerted us to an unexplained sighting in the skies above Sacramento, California.
I called FAA in the morning and told them what we encountered. And he said that they didn't pick up anything on radar. And that was it as far as that conversation went.
Home videos like those from Michigan and Sacramento are analyzed by photographic and aeronautic experts. Sophisticated computer technology compares and contrasts UFO images with those of known aircraft. Photo analyst Jeff Sainio interpreted the Sacramento video.
You see a dot in the sky, which in itself could be a star. It's really difficult to tell from the video itself, but more interestingly, another light comes up from below it.
Because the images themselves are so minute, the flight pattern and velocity of the UFO become critical to the analysis.
The important thing we get from this graph is that the apparent speed here appears to double in the 11 seconds that we see this thing. That's quite possibly simply because it got closer to us. So what kind of object gets twice as close to us in 11 seconds and you still can't make out what its shape is? It's still just a dot. And so this video I simply can't identify. It's got a characteristic that seems to defy conventional explanation.
In Aliso Viejo, California, viewer Dale Newcomb shot this video of what he describes as a flying saucer. Analysis proves otherwise.
Here's a freeze frame of the object that was seen in Aliso Viejo. Very classic saucer shape there. The giveaway, here we're seeing it go out of focus. The giveaway we see is the FAA-compliant anti-collision strobe lighting. We'll see a flash on the bottom and the top of the object every once in a while. It's the giveaway that these are rather startling looking, but conventional advertising balloons.
Sainio is a staff analyst with MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. As the leading independent UFO organization, MUFON also receives many videotapes, including this one from Greifswald, Germany, that had the military very concerned.
There was a case of multiple lights in the sky, hundreds of witnesses, objects joining and leaving a main group of objects. I think the sighting went on for well over an hour. Allegedly, this was shot at by Russian artillery. And witnesses saying that these things flew off at very high speed. I simply can't guess as to where they come from.
With the advent of home video technology, the number of documented UFO sightings has risen dramatically, but the percentage that can be explained has not risen. Ironically, the more unidentified flying objects amateur ufologists capture on tape, the greater the mystery becomes for professional analysts.
Having any kind of evidence, including videotape and still photos, really increases the acceptability, the acceptance of the fact that there is definitely something going on.
Videotape doesn't lie. It's not a hoax.
In Brazil, a camera records 3 strange lights.
This object appeared for 1.5 hours.
In Japan, someone captures this hovering object. And in Topeka, Kansas, and Tucson, Arizona, other cameras document other unusual objects. Once these encounters would have been dismissed, but today cameras have ensured they're taken seriously.
There it goes. 1, 2, 3. Do we have a videotape rolling?
Yes.
A lot of people have home video cameras. So we see a lot of videotape taken from all over the world. And a lot of it is taken at night. And there are certain patterns that emerge.
One of these patterns is geographic. Locations where UFO encounters seem to congregate. These areas are known as hotspots. And one of these active locations is Pine Bush, New York.
There, it's coming through the trees now.
Here, near the side of a country road overlooking an ordinary field, Pine Bush residents gather almost nightly to view and videotape strange lights in the sky.
It's like you're being drawn. Something's pulling you to here.
I also feel like I'm drawn to this place. I mean, if I don't come up here, I get rather irritable.
Longtime local resident and author Ellen Crystal has documented the Pine Bush phenomenon for 10 years. In August 1992, Ellen took this home video of her UFO encounter.
How is that?
For 12 minutes, I held the camera as still as I could and filmed this thing going about 1 mile an hour, 2 miles an hour.
Computer analyst Jim Dilatoso has studied this videotape. He can find no explanation, save one.
In analyzing the Ellen Crystal video, we determined that it is not night phenomena of planets or stars. It's not an aircraft. It's not a hoax. It's probably what the witness said.
Ellen Crystal's experiences inspired other people in Pine Bush to come forward. Thomas and Susan Mann started coming to the field in August 1993. A few weeks later, Thomas shot this videotape of a UFO hovering at the tree line. Ever since, the couple has returned to the field.
3 or 4 times a week?
If not more.
If not more.
Every week, all winter long. We just bundle up and go out.
Oh, I can see it with the...
Strange. Within this one field, there's some very strange things going on.
Attempting to explain these sightings, geologist Bruce Cornett surveyed the field. He discovered abnormal magnetic fluctuations.
I found areas that will be transmitting 5 to 10,000 gamma spikes every 20 to 30 seconds. And there is nothing natural about that.
Dr. Cornett believes these bizarre magnetic anomalies are somehow related to the UFO activity.
And every single one of the so-called hotspots that have been identified occurs near or over one of these magnetic anomalies.
Another UFO hotspot is Michigan. Recently, Encounters obtained a copy of what is arguably the highest quality UFO videotape to date. It was shot by a professional videographer from local news station WWMT in Kalamazoo, acting on a tip from local residents.
There's 2 of them up there. I know it. Look at it. Flashing. They're flashing.
Marge Traynor, her daughter Tammy, and family friend Gary Hicks were shocked to discover strange lights directly over the Traynor house.
We went outside, me and my mom, and we looked up in the sky, and we seen about 8 objects going around in the sky.
She called the police first. They asked them if they had any weird sightings in Portage, and police didn't know nothing about it. So then she hung up and called Channel 3, to let them know what was going on. They were going to get a cameraman out here.
Cameraman John Short went to the Traynor home and, using professional equipment, shot this image of the UFO.
It was definitely odd and probably the weirdest thing that I've ever, covered as far as a story, basically in part because I couldn't describe it. Didn't have an answer for these people what it might be.
I was glad they showed up out here to film what was going on out there, where they could have some kind of proof that there was something out there.
I did see the flashing lights, the pulsating lights. So I think that definitely enhanced their feeling that they weren't crazy.
Then Jim Dilatoso examined the Michigan videotape.
When a professional news person shoots video, they have in mind trying to tell a story, keeping the image quality clear and clean, and can follow along with what the action is, like in sports, follow the ball. This is particularly good video to look at because of the staging of the way that the lights were framed into the video.
I'm going to follow it down.
Gulf Breeze, Florida has been a hot spot since 1987, when this dramatic series of UFO photographs was taken. Experts disagree about their authenticity, but these photos touched off a flood of other videotapes and photographs from the area.
Wow! Is that beautiful?
Art Hufford is an engineer and longtime Gulf Breeze resident. In 1987, Art's life was turned upside down when he had his first UFO encounter.
My wife and I were driving home one afternoon. Suddenly up ahead, we saw a craft hovering above trees. It looked like nothing we had ever seen before.
Art said his sighting resembled the earlier Gulf Breeze photos. He then began to take extraordinary pictures of his own.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Words are fine, but it helps to have something else to support your story. And when you have photographs, when you have videotaped evidence to back up the personal accounts that you and other witnesses, it seems to add a lot more credibility.
Moving to the west, slowly. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on up there?
Bruce Morrison is another Gulf Breeze resident who has taken some of the best amateur eyewitness video to date. Since his first sighting in 1987, he has become completely engrossed in the subject.
We were out every night, Christmas Eve, Christmas night, New Year's Eve, New Year's night. I mean, the holiday, nothing stopped us. And you sit there and you say, I need to go to bed because I need to get up early in the morning, but maybe a gut feeling says, another 5 minutes.
On September 2nd, 1991, Bruce's patient waiting paid off.
Bubba, come on in here. You know who we are? Sorry about the talk, folks. There we go, big bright. It started out and slowly meandered across the Naval Air Station for 9 minutes and dropped little white objects out that would come down so far and just burn out or stop.
Who is that? Look, drop! Look!
To this point, the only thing I have photographed is unidentified anomalous lights that I know what they are not, but I don't know what they are.
Once again, we asked Jim Dilatoso to analyze Bruce Morrison's videotapes.
Okay, an interesting part about this, and we can see from the color trail here, is this luminous object that fell from the major light. And it could be very significant because it's seen in other videos shot at Gulf Breeze and in other videos that have been shot in other places around the world.
Meanwhile, the people of Gulf Breeze continue to scan the night, hoping to see the extraordinary for themselves. And if the past is any indication, they may not have long to wait.
I didn't believe in UFOs before. I really didn't. And now I'm out to see everything I can see and to know everything I can know.